Hello everyone and welcome to the computer literacy course. I'll quickly take you through the computer hardware, which is the many parts of a personal computer. What I'd like us to look at is what is a computer. Now this is what we all know as a computer. This is what we all know as a computer. So what is, to answer that question, we'll look at a computer is an electronic information processing machine used in different places, departments, organizations, and homes. But what makes a computer is that it performs four main operations. That is, receives input as data, which is raw facts. After receiving the input, it's going to process it according to predefined instructions. After processing it, it will produce the output, which is the information, in a meaningful way for you to decide whether you are going to store it permanently or discard it. So that's what makes a computer a computer. It performs four main operations: receives input, processes the input, produces the output from the input, and then you decide whether you are going to store it after it has produced it. Okay, a computer has many uses. It's used in everyday life. In banking, accountants use it. It's used in medicine by doctors to write prescriptions. It's used in entertainment, airline reservations, weather forecast for us to know what the temperature of tomorrow will be, or even next week, and also used in committing crimes. As you can see, I put it in red. People use computer nowadays to commit crimes. So we've said a PC, or personal computer, is an electronic machine that follows a set of instructions in order to accept and gather data and transform these into information. It accepts data and transforms these into information. So let's have a quick look at what is the difference between data and information. Data versus information. Data is facts and figures which relay something specific, but which are not organized in any way and which provide no further information regarding the patterns. In short, data is unstructured or unorganized facts and figures. That is what data is. So what you are entering into your computer is data. Now the computer is going to process the data to become information. When it becomes information, then it becomes meaningful. So for data to become information, it must be processed, contextualized, categorized, and then it becomes meaningful. So it is data with relevance and purpose. That is what information is. What you enter in a computer is data transformed into information, and it becomes meaningful and useful. Computers have characteristics. They have speed, they are fast, they are accurate, they are diligent, and they have storage capability that is very high, as well as being versatile. So they've got speed, accuracy, diligence, storage capacity, as well as versatility. Let me explain further. What is speed? The computer can process data very fast. That is what speed is. Accuracy is a computer can accurately give the result of division of any two numbers up to 10 decimal places, unlike a human being. Diligence means it can perform long and complex calculations with the same speed and accuracy without getting tired. Storage capability means large volumes of data and information can be stored in the computer and also retrieved whenever required. Versatility. Now, a computer can perform different types of tasks with the same ease, like preparing a letter while playing music or copying files quite a number of things you can do at the same time with a computer. Now there are two major components of a PC. Computer comprises of two major components: the hardware, which are the tangible parts, the one that one can touch, and the software, the non-tangible part that tells the computer how to do its job. Parts of the computer. So here is a computer. This is our system unit, also called system box. And this is our screen, visual display unit, also known as the monitor. And here is our keyboard. Here is our mouse. That is a simple computer put there. One can start using it. One can also have a better one, like this one here. This is the system unit. Here is the screen. Here is the also known as the monitor, and here are the speakers, and here is the microphone, and here is the keyboard. Here is the mouse. Now on the previous one, we didn't have the speakers and the microphone. On this one, we've got those ones. So this is a complete computer ready for use. Computer parts. There are many parts that work together to make a computer work. Here we are. As we've seen the different computer parts that I'm going to look at very quickly that makes a computer work. So all these parts you see here are found inside the casing. These ones are always outside and visible. These parts are found inside. So we'll look at them. There are many parts actually. All of these are hardware. The ones that we can all recognize: the keyboard, the mouse, the speakers, and the monitor, because they are always outside. Now inside the computer would find some of these. Now some of these other ones we also know them from outside. So at these parts. Now all the hardware would either be input or output or storage devices. All the tangible parts of a computer are either input, output, or storage devices. Input devices allows you to input or insert as well as enter information into the computer. So the input devices allows you to enter data into a computer. Output devices allows you to display or print information out of the computer. And storage devices are used to store or save the information that we've entered. So when you enter information, you use either a mouse, a keyboard, and then it will be displayed either on the screen, on the projector, or it's printed on paper using a printer. Now storage devices, they help you to store the information that you've entered in your computer. Now here is the casing, which is the box or outer shell that houses most of the computer parts. It protects the computer circuits, the cooling, and the system organizer. The front part of the computer. This is the front part. These are the handles. Here is a power switch. Here we've got the drive base and the front USB ports. Inside the computer casing, this is how it looks like. So if one is to look inside the computer casing, you'd see here is where the drive bays come in, the optical drives, and here is the drive bay for the hard disk drives, and at the back here is where the expansion slots will USB for expanding the computer functionality, and this is the power supply. Now inside the computer here again, you can see the power supply goes right here, and the motherboard, there it is, and this is the back part of it. It would come out here, and here is the hard disk drive, and there is the optical drive, and here is the floppy disk drive. Motherboard. The motherboard is the board where components connect to communicate. Components are like the microprocessor is found on the motherboard, the memory is found on the motherboard, the basic input and output system, BIOS, all found on the motherboard. What is connected to the computer would either be an input or an output. Then the expansion slots, which we saw in the previous slide. Here is the motherboard, where the CPU goes, the RAM goes, and everything else. So the CPU goes in here. Here are the power connectors, and the RAM goes right there. The IDE controller, the SATA controller, and the expansion slots are here where you put the expansion card. Any expansion card, it could be a network card, an audio card, a video card, or any other card that you would put there. Even a video card would be put there. This is the back part of the motherboard. This is where the keyboard goes, and this is where the mouse is plugged. These are the PSU type and not the USB type. However, these days you'd find that the PSU types are being phased out, and most of them are becoming the USB type. And here you would connect the printer. Here you would connect your VGA cable, which goes to the monitor. This is the FireWire port. It looks more of like the USB port, but it's different. If you put your USB port here, it won't work. What goes in here is a different type of cable. The Ethernet port for your network, and then the audio ports for your microphone and for your speakers. That is the back panel where the input or outputs are connected. So anything connected here would be an input device, an output device, or a storage device. Like an external hard disk drive, you can plug it in here, and then you store your data, and you remove it after that. So the motherboard, we've seen it. It's sometimes known as the many board, system board, planner board, or logic board. We said it's the many printed circuit board found in computers and other expandable systems. This is how it looks like. We've seen it there. It's a very important component of the computer. The next component is the CPU, the processor. CPU, known as the processor. This is the chip that interprets and executes program instructions and manage the function of the input, output, and storage devices. Now, these are the two major manufacturers of CPU, Intel as well as AMD. So a CPU is a chip that does all the execution of instructions, and it also manages the functions of what is going in, what goes out, and what is stored. Now the CPU works very hard and it gets very hot. Once it's hot, it gets cooled by what we call the CPU heat sink. What we see here is the heat sink with the fan. So when the CPU is working, it gets hot, and when it's hot, it's cooled by the heat sink. The heat sink extracts the heat from there, and the fan cools the heat sink, keeping the CPU cool. So the CPU processing unit or processor, as we call it, is cooled by the heat sink. That is the purpose of this one, is to cool the CPU. The next thing is the RAM. This is where the programs and data are stored temporarily. So RAM stands for random access memory. It's used to temporarily store the programs and data that you will run. It exists only when there is power. When you switch off your computer, all the programs, all the files, every data that was stored on the RAM disappears. That's why it's called primary. It's a temporal, also known as volatile, meaning it does not keep what is stored there. It only keeps it temporarily while there is power. And this is how the RAM looks like. These are RAM chips. They only store data that is being used by the computer. The power supply, we've seen it. The power supply supplies the power. It's responsible for powering every device on the computer. That is all it does. Secondary storage devices. These are attached to the computer system to allow you to store programs and data permanently for the purpose of retrieving them for future use. Now, permanently meaning they will be there for as long as you don't delete them. They will be there permanently, but when you delete them, they will still be deleted. So permanent doesn't mean that whether you like it or not, they won't move. No, they can be deleted. However, it differs from RAM in that RAM, when you switch off your computer, what is stored there disappears. With the secondary storage, what is stored there will still be there when you come to switch on your computer later. These are examples: hard disk drive, solid state drive, CD and DVD ROMs, as well as USB sticks. Here is how a hard disk drive looks like. It's a magnetic storage device in the computer. It's a secondary mass storage device. Now, they come in two sizes. For desktop, it's a 3.5 inches. For a laptop, it's a 2.5 inches. It makes sense because you can't put a 3.5 inch in a laptop. It's too big, it won't fit. The 3.5 is for the desktop, the 2.5 is for the laptop. However, you may fit this one into your desktop as well, but it won't, it fits, however, it won't fit in a way that you can tie it nicely. It's small, so it can go in. This one won't go into a laptop. Optical discs. These are specially used for multimedia purposes, and they are preferred in loading applications, loading operating system, as well as storing music, pictures, and anything else that you want to store there. Like DVD, this one store more data than a CD. CD is smaller, it's like 700 megabytes, while a DVD is 4.7 gigabytes. Other secondary storage devices like USB flash drives, these are most common. Most students have them. And then we've got the solid state drive. We also which has non-moving parts. And then we have the flash memory cards, like this one, SD card, secure disk cards. Input devices. We've said anything connected to the computer will either bring information in or take the information out. Here are examples. So they allow data and programs to be entered into the PC and sent to the CPU for processing. The most common one is the keyboard as well as the mouse. Those are the most common input devices. Output devices, these are the ones that display what has been processed. The most common is the screen. Now these kind of screens have been there and they've been phased out. The most common one is these days is the LCD or the LED, liquid crystal display or light emitting diode screens. The older types like this one, the cathode tubes, they are still there, but not much in use these days. Printers are also other output devices, and we all know the purpose and function of a printer, that it converts computer output onto printed papers. When you print, it comes out on paper. What you see on the screen will now appear on the paper. Hard copy, that is what is referred to as printed output. If someone talks of a hard copy, he's talking of a printed document, which is the opposite of the soft copy, which refers to the output that is in the form of sound or displayed on a computer, the one that you cannot touch. Soft copy, you can only see it on the screen or hear it via the speakers. That's the opposite of hard copy. And here are example of printers. We've got the dot matrix printer, we've got the inkjet printer, and we've got the laser printer. All those are examples of printers. They are output devices. A number of input devices. Optical marker reader, also known as OMR, magnetic strip, the joystick, the microphone, the digital camera, the video camera, the keyboard, the mouse, the trackball, the touchpad, light pen, scanners, and barcode readers. All these are examples of input devices that brings information into a computer. For barcode readers, we've seen this when you go to a shop. They just get the product and scans it on the barcode, and then it tells them what product it is and how much it costs. The touchpad, for example, is found on the laptop. That's where you touch. Most of these other ones, we know them. Output devices, these are media used by the computer in displaying its responses to other requests and instructions, like the monitor, which is the screen, most common one, audio speakers, like also ear and headphones, and then the printer and the projector. All those are output devices. Input and output devices. There's one that is both, which is a touch screen. This device is both input and output. It's a device like your laptops. That is a very good example would be a smartphone. The device is a video display screen that has been sensitized to receive input from touch of a finger. Now it's the same thing. Where you touch is where you see the information being displayed. So it's an input as well as an output device. You touch there, you get your output right on where you touched. Storage devices. These are devices where we store data permanently, like hard disk drive solid state with non-moving parts, flash memory cards like you've seen there, USB flash drives, and CD-ROMs plus DVD-ROMs. Now the information processing cycle, what we've said here is steps that are followed for information to be processed. The computer will receive the input, processes the input, and then gives you back what has been processed. You decide whether to store it or not. So it's an input, you are the one inputting it, it processes, and then it's made visible, then you store it. So these are the steps that are followed in the data processing cycle. Now, packaging the computer. The many physical forms of the general purpose computer are, they all follow general organization. They have the central processing unit, which is the CPU. They have the primary memory, which is the RAM. They have the secondary memory, which is the hard disk drive or any other, which is the storage device. And then they have input units. They've got output units. So any computer that one would have must have these ones. It would work. You would also have speakers, you would have microphones, but those ones are not very important for it to start working. With these, the computer can start working, although it might not produce sound for you. You might not record if it doesn't have a microphone, but it can start working. Now, packaging a computer, we've got a list of them here. That is the next video. Calculators, they are considered as computers, very small, they are cheap, they are simple, and they are very slow. We've got palm tops computers, we've got microcomputers, we've got mini computers, the mainframe computers, and the super computers, which are fast, expensive, complex, and large. Now from here, that's how they move. This is smaller than this, which is also smaller than this, just like that up to the top. This is the most expensive, the fastest, the complex, and largest computer. In conclusion, what we looked at here is that input units, you input something there, it goes to the central processing unit. Coming from there, it's processed, goes to the primary memory, temporal storage, and then it goes to the output units for you to decide whether you are going to store it permanently or not. You input it, it's processed, and then it goes out there. Now the CPU, everything as you can see points towards the CPU, which is the brain of the computer. When you type something, the brain functions to say, okay, the person have said A or B. It's processed, and then when you click, the CPU will execute the instruction to say the person have said print or the person have said store. Now the primary memory, which is RAM, is always closer to the CPU. Even on the motherboard, if you will check, you will see it's closer to the CPU, for the purpose that they work together. Information moves between these two much quicker and much faster. Alright, that concludes the first part of the video on Unit 1.